This is the last talk for this seminar. So I thought I would begin asking if we have any questions. Then we can begin with the questions and then carry on.
Good morning, Ramesh.
Morning.
I have a question about your teaching.
Yes.
As far as I understood,
Yes.
there's no sense in it.
There is no?
There's no sense in your teaching.
No sense.
No sense.
Oh, absolutely none.
Your teaching is somehow no sense, nonsense.
That's right.
I'm asking myself
Yes.
what I'm doing here to listen to nonsense.
Giving up your common sense.
I got the impression that you want to feed my thinking mind,
Yes.
to satisfy my ego, to please whatsoever is wrong.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Your teaching
Yes.
has a certain reason: to please my ego, to satisfy my thinking mind, to make me somehow happy. But that's nonsense. And I ask myself what I'm doing here.
So I told you, shedding your common sense. You are here shedding your common sense so that you can imbibe the nonsense.
The reason for your teaching is to disturb me, to confuse me. Is this the reason? So I go home, and if I listen to you and to your disciples, the only thing I got was I didn't get anything.
Yes. That's what should have been promised to you in the first place. That you are not going to get anything at all here. If anything, you will shed something you have, and that is your sense of personal doership.
So I'm going home today total free.
Yes, free of your sense of personal doership, I hope. That was the intention anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So after that we'll carry on where our friend left. What is the spiritual seeker seeking? That's where we come back to. That's where I began, and that's where I start again. What is the spiritual seeker seeking? A lot of misconception about it. I want to make it perfectly clear. Whatever the concept or word is, enlightenment, self-realization, understanding, freedom, whatever the word is used, what I would like to make absolutely clear is it cannot have anything to do other than with life. Whatever the seeking is, it's still connected with life. In other words, it's not something, it is not as if in order to get the spiritual truth, you have to give up living your life. It is not that at all. It is not that you have to give up your life, give everything you have to the ashram, and then stay there under bondage. It's not like that at all. So I've been asking visitors who come to me the same question: what do you think you're looking for? And this was the answer: enlightenment, enlightenment or self-realization. I said, why do you want self-realization? It can't be something not connected with life. So even if you call it spiritual seeking, I say it must be made clear. It has something to do with life. And one man gave me a beautiful answer. He says, I'm not looking for enlightenment. I don't know what the word means. All I want, he said, is to be comfortable with myself. And I cannot be comfortable with myself if I'm not comfortable with others. I like that answer so much. He said, I like to be comfortable with myself. And I know I can't be comfortable with myself unless I'm comfortable with others. You see? And it so happens that that is exactly what this teaching provides. To be comfortable with yourself. Why is one usually not comfortable with oneself? Mainly because of the load of sin and guilt and shame that a person usually carries. Why is a person not comfortable with himself? I repeat, because according to my concept, it is because of the enormous load of sin and guilt and shame. I did that, I shouldn't have done it. That was a bad thing. Ever since I was a child, I was told it was a sin. But I've been continuously doing it, committing this sin, for which I feel guilt and shame. There are many things I've done which cause shame to me. Others may not have known it. So what is it that causes oneself to be uncomfortable with oneself? My idea is this guilt of sin and shame and anything else that is connected with my action. The other part of it is the load not only of guilt and sin and shame, but the load of hate and jealousy and envy for others, because of which I'm not comfortable with others. Why am I not comfortable with others? Because deep down I know I hate many people. I'm jealous of many people. I envy the people who are born rich. So altogether, that which makes me uncomfortable and makes me uncomfortable with others is this load of pride and guilt and hatred and jealousy and envy. So what will remove, that's where the teaching begins. What will remove this load? What is the basis of this load? The basis of this load is simply, I do what actions that happen through my body, mind out. You do actions which happen through your body, mind out. And he does, she does exactly what I do and you do. In other words, this sense of doership, which brings about a sense of not being comfortable with myself and not being comfortable with others. So if the basic cause, the sense of personal doership is lost, then automatically, if I know totally, with absolute confidence, from personal experience, that no action is my action, and similarly no action is your action, then obviously this load, enormous load, will not be there. If no action is my action, why should I feel proud if my action is accepted by society? If my action is not accepted by society, why should I feel guilt or shame? And if no action is done by anyone else, even if that action hurts me, if I know that no one does any action, that all action, every single action, is a divine happening and not something done by anyone, then how can I hate anybody? The action may have hurt me, but how can I hate anybody? And if someone is born rich, I know he had done nothing about it. Why should I envy anybody? So with this as the basis, that is the basis of my teaching. Again, to use the Buddha's words, events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer thereof. And there is another big advantage of being able to be absolutely certain by God's grace that no action is any individual's action. And that is, you don't have to worry about your next life. That, I think, is a very big relief. So the whole question boils down to, why is my action not my action? And the only answer is, from everybody's experience at any time, it is known that even being born, I had nothing to do. Nobody had anything to do with one's being born, with a particular nature, which I call programming, which means your unique genes or DNA plus the conditioning the body-mind organism has received during its lifetime, continuously, at home, in school, in society, in church or temple. And it is this programming which is essentially the cause of any action happening through that body. And it is the same for anybody, me or you. And that can be proved from personal experience. As I say, one doesn't have any control over one's being born. In fact, the conception as a result of which each one of us is born, that conception itself, according to my concept, has been according to God's will, and it will be God's will, and it was God's will, whether any particular conception will be born or not, whether it will be aborted or whether it will be born. And if it is born, how long the lifespan will be, how that body-mind organism will die, in what way, natural death, accident, murder, suicide, any which way. And during that lifespan, what exactly happens to that body-mind organism is, according to my concept, predetermined. And as I said, I think yesterday, the mathematician, Stephen Hawking, he's written a 13-page, 12-page essay just on this point. One, is everything predetermined? And he comes to the conclusion, yes. And you can't know what that predetermination is. Now that is what the mathematician says. Mathematician, physicist. But that is still a concept. It is still, whether it's my concept or Stephen Hawking's concept, it is still a concept. My point is, what does your personal experience say? From the past experience, if you just sit for a while and think of any of the particular actions which you thought were your actions, and find out how they started, how they proceeded, how they ended, you will have to come to the conclusion that the cause of your action was something over which you had no control. So basically, my point is that the only way this relief from suffering, relief from psychological suffering can go is to be absolutely certain from personal experience that no action is anyone's action. So now, what I did this morning, I happened to get up early. I wrote down some notes on what I thought would be basics. I wanted to give you a copy of each a copy of that. Then I was reminded that it is Sunday and everything is closed. So I said, that is your destiny and my destiny. So let me read from those. Before I read them, there's one other thing I wanted to say, and that is, basic two teachings are Advaita and Dvaita, which is knowledge and devotion. And every master has said that they are not two, they are two aspects of the same thing. And then if I find that the way I begin is with bhakti, that is devotion, which says, thy will be done, which means appealing to God and taking for granted that nothing can happen unless it is the will of God. And the same principle in every religion. The Hindu religion says, thou art the doer, thou art the experiencer. So, it so happens that this teaching begins with bhakti. So what I am saying is, as far as this teaching is concerned, they are not two aspects of the same thing, they are the same thing. The teaching begins with the concept, nothing can happen unless it is the will of God. If something has happened, it could not have happened unless it was the will of God. And ultimately, where does it end? It ends with the total acceptance that no individual doer, there is no individual doer. Therefore, life merely happens. And whatever life happens, happens in phenomenality, in the manifestation, which is merely an expression of the source. So all there is the source, by whatever name you call it. So we begin with bhakti, devotion to God, and end with the understanding that all there is the source, from which everything has come out, and the source is the only reality, and therefore whatever has emerged as an appearance from the source cannot be real, which is the purest Advaita. So this teaching begins with bhakti or devotion and finally ends in the purest Advaita. Now, when I read this, there are 7 items which I hope will take us through till bhajan time. On any point, I'll read it slowly, I'll repeat it. But if there is any question, please bring it up. the master key to all doors of ignorance and confusion is the apperception that nothing in relativity exists, neither space-time, not even knowledge. There is no creation and no dissolution. So whatever appears is an appearance, and therefore in phenomenality nothing exists. The only real existence is that of the source. 2. Space-time does not exist objectively. Science, physics tells us the same thing. So in the absence of space-time, the physicist very clearly says there is no time. And the British physicist Fred Hoyle acknowledges that it is difficult to accept. So he says, I know you will find it difficult to accept that there is no time. He said, but believe me, he says, I can assure you that there is no such thing as time. No such thing as time. In the absence of space-time, there cannot be any phenomenal objects or any thinking about it. There can only be subjectivity. That is the source. No object, only subjectivity. Objects cannot exist without space-time, and space-time does not exist. Therefore, objects cannot exist. There can only be subjectivity. Therefore, what we surely must be is I, the noumenon, the source, spaceless and timeless, intemporality. I repeat, space-time does not exist objectively. Science or physics tells us this in no uncertain terms, very clearly. So, in the absence of space-time, there cannot be any phenomenal objects or any thinking about the phenomenal objects. And whatever the thinking there is must concern a person or a thing. Then what we surely must be is I, the noumenon, the source, spaceless and timeless, which is intemporality. 3. Oh, no questions? Or am I too fast? Yes, please.
Just going, I've heard this explained to me before about the space-time thing.
Yeah.
I just can't seem to take it in. Can you just talk a little bit more? Can you just talk a little bit more about no time, no space, no time?
You see, the technical part of it, you have to ask the physicist. And if I read a book on physics, I will not understand it. But I do know from experience, just as you know from experience, that there is no time. In deep sleep, where is space? Where is time? Where is manifestation? Where is the thinking about the manifestation? So each of us knows from personal experience that in deep sleep, space-time does not exist. And if space-time does not exist in sleep, deep sleep, and exists only in certain conditions, then it does not exist all the time. That is my argument, which I understand. But why the physicist says so, I can't explain to. But I am prepared to accept the physicist's word. That was the question?
Yep, yep.
The third one, living as we know it, life as we know it, living is a movie on the screen of space an illusion of movement created by the serializing of the three-dimensional stills, perceived and cognized only so long as the light of consciousness is available. Living is a movie on the screen of space, an illusion of movement in that space created by the serializing of the three-dimensional stills in a movie. The movie is really nothing but a collection of stills. But because those stills are serialized in duration, in horizontal time, we have a movie. Once the light of consciousness is off, the screen of space, the three-dimensional characters in that space and the events on the screen disappear. The movie no longer functions. This I would call dying. What we are is unbroken wholeness. What we are can neither live nor die. Therefore, whenever someone asks a question to Ramana Maharshi about being afraid to die, so he says, why are you afraid to die? Were you ever born? Only that which is born an object will die. And you, the real you, the only you, the source, there is no question of being born or dying. I'll repeat the thing. Living is a movie on the screen of space, an illusion of movement created by the serializing of the three-dimensional stills, perceived and cognized only so long as the light of consciousness is available. That is living. Once the light of consciousness is off, the screen of space, the three-dimensional characters in that space, and the events on the screen disappear. The movie no longer functions because there is no light of consciousness. The movie no longer functions because there is no light of consciousness. And the absence of this light of consciousness is called dying. What we are is unbroken wholeness. What we are can neither live nor die. Next one. Sorry? Oh, there's a question? Please. Yes, please.
This discussion often has to do about living. And I keep wondering, was there a movie before life evolved on Earth? Assuming that Earth is the only planet with life, that I don't know. But if there was a universe without sentient creatures here on Earth, or suppose we pollute ourselves out of existence, will there still be a movie when there are no living or sentient creatures?
Will there be a movie if there are no sentient creatures?
No, you see, then the movie, there will be no movie without sentient creatures, because that sentience is the light of consciousness. The sentience which enables you to see the movie is the light of consciousness, which if it is absent, there will be no movie. That is exactly the point.
But the scientists also posit that the universe is some odd number, trillions of years old, 7 trillion years or so. What was going on all that time?
I'm sorry.
Scientists say that the universe is 7 trillion years old.
Yes.
What was going on all that time if there were no sentient creatures in that space?
Oh, but whoever has said this, it's his concept. That's his concept. Mm-hmm. He believes there must have been a universe. he believed that there must have been a universe.
Sounds good to me.
And if there was a universe, there must have been sentient. But 1 second, sentient creatures does not mean only human beings.
Well, slugs and things.
But what other sentient beings there can be?
Well, I assume animals have some kind of sentience.
Yes.
Bacteria.
Sentient beings, there are sentient beings on land, air and water. Thousands and thousands of sentient beings. You see, so sentient beings does not mean only human beings.
Thank you.
But for life as we know it, it is human beings, life of the human beings. So when what we are concerned with is human beings, we don't really care what happens to the rest of the universe. And I often mention, the human being is very proud that the smallpox germ has been eliminated from the point of view of the human being. What about the same situation from the point of view of the smallpox germ? To be eliminated. Now, for the same reason, for the benefit of some other species, the human being is wiped out. That the human being won't like. So what we are can neither live nor die. Then the spatio-temporal framework, space and time, the extension in space and in time, the temporal extension. The spatio-temporal framework enables us to experience phenomenally what we are nominally. The noumenon, source by itself, consciousness at rest, energy that is only potential, cannot experience themselves unless the potential energy activizes itself. So nominally cannot experience itself. For the noumenon or the source to have experience, it can only be in phenomenality. The spatio-temporal framework enables us, that is the human being, to experience phenomenally what we are nominally. That means if noumenon is all there is, if the source is all there is, then what we are has to be the source, nominally. The phenomenal manifestation could only have emerged into the framework of space-time from the nominal source. The phenomenal manifestation could only have emerged into the framework of space-time from the nominal source. If we objectify that conceptual medium of space-time into something independently external to ourselves, now we ourselves are phenomenality. But if we objectify that conceptual medium of space-time as something other than us, then the me and the others, that means bondage. If we consider ourselves separate from the rest of the phenomenality, and the rest of the phenomenality includes the others, then the me and the others, the subject-object relationship is the bondage. Subject-object relationship based on the duality of love-hate, friendship and enmity, that is the bondage. Samsara is the presence of space-time phenomenality. Nirvana is its absence. Mutual negation of these interconnected opposites, samsara and nirvana, restores us to our noumenal being. This is self-realization. Self-realization. Who am I? Though I can only be the source from which this entire manifestation has come into space-time. So space-time and the manifestation in it is one. And we are part of that phenomenality. So therefore we can only be that source from which the phenomenality has emerged into space-time. Yes, please. One second.
Ramesh, I just wonder how it is possible that actually what you said is that the numinous is not aware of itself, is it right?
Noumenon is the source.
Yeah, and
consciousness at rest. Therefore, noumenon or consciousness at rest or potential energy does not know itself.
But by phenomenality, it does know itself.
Sorry?
By the expression in phenomenality,
phenomenality, yes. By the expression phenomenality. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Phenomenality is the manifestation, perceivable by senses. That is phenomenality. The world, the earth.
But isn't that part of the source, an expression of the source?
It is indeed an expression of the source. So only when this expression happens that the source knows itself through phenomenality.
But not aware in itself, of
No,
itself.
That's why the source, not of consciousness, not aware of itself when it is at rest, becomes aware of itself when the manifestation happens. And the self-awareness, I am, happens. So phenomenality, the phenomenal presence, the manifestation, and I am are simultaneous. Until then, consciousness is not aware of itself in its state of rest. Potential energy does not know itself until it objectivize itself. And why does potential energy activize itself? Because unless the potential energy activized itself sometime, the nature of the potential would be different. If the potential never activized itself, then the nature of the potential would be dead matter. So the nature of potential is to activize itself sometime.
But then it comes and it goes, and then it's
That
not...
is correct. It comes and it goes. That is why it is not real. It's an illusion. It's an appearance. For that very reason, it comes and goes.
Well, then it's hard for me to accept that those appearances are an expression of the immortal and ever-existing source.
Yes.
How could you prove that? Whether it's just coming and going and disappearing and there is no source, which could be possible.
But anything connected with the source, how can a phenomenal being prove it? How can a phenomenal being prove anything about the source? The phenomenal being is an object. How can a created object ever know anything about the pure subjectivity? The creator subject. How can a created object ever know anything about the creator subject? That's the point.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the physicist has come against a dead ball.
So that's actually a question which cannot be answered in the end.
That is correct. A created object can never ever understand the nature of the source or the basis on which the created phenomenal universe functions. Again, basically, a created object cannot know the will of the creator subject. If you create a painting with a figure in it, or if you create an object of metal or wood, The sculpture which you have created can never know why you have created the sculpture and the way you have created the sculpture. That is what it means. If you create something, that which you have created can never know anything about you. So this you and me, that is the created object, can never know the will of the creator subject.
Yes, Ramesh, but then the painting or the sculpture I created actually can't even know whether there was a creator or not.
Exactly. Therefore, that figure in the painting cannot know even this. But we do know because of the intellect, because of that mechanism in the human mechanism which prevents it from seeing its mechanistic nature.
Oh,
That is why you can ask, but your painted figure cannot ask.
oh, and just by the mere fact that we have the possibility of asking and thinking about that fact that there might be a source, and you think that, or you know that there is a source because
No, what I'm saying is, this created object can ask the question, but can never know the answer. Your created figure cannot even ask the question. You have a question?
Yes, I do. Would consciousness at rest
Yes.
be analogous to us being asleep, and consciousness manifesting itself be analogous to us waking up in the morning?
Yes, that is correct. But those terms refer only to something in phenomenality. And the total absence of both those concepts mean the source, which has no concept at all.
Thank you.
But you are quite right, the interconnected opposites are only in phenomenality. Presence and absence in phenomenality. So in the source, there is absence not only of the presence, but absence of the absence. You see what I mean? Presence and absence are element of phenomenality. So the presence of knowledge or the absence of knowledge, absence of both mean the source. Absence and presence are the interconnected opposites connected with phenomenality.
If I got that, I wouldn't be here now.
Well, my friend, let's hope you are not here next time. But you could send a donation. Noumenon, pure subjectivity, is not aware of its existence. Noumenon, pure subjectivity, is not aware of its existence. Such awareness of its existence comes about only with the arising of consciousness, I am. The impersonal awareness of consciousness, I am. This spontaneous arising of consciousness, the sense of presence, the impersonal sense of presence, simultaneously causes a condition of duality. The wholeness, the holiness, the equanimity of pure subjectivity gets split into contrasting elements of positive and negative, presence and absence, love and hate, pleasure and pain, and the many conceptual pairs of opposites through the duality of the subject and its object. This subject and its object in phenomenality are both objects. The relationship in phenomenality is between subject-object. I know you, I am the subject, you are the object. You know me, you are the subject and I am the object. So the subject-object relationship, which is the basis of the functioning of phenomenality, is the duality. The wholeness, the holiness, the equanimity of pure subjectivity gets split into contrasting elements of positive and negative, presence and absence, love and hate, pleasure and pain, and the many conceptual pairs of opposites through the duality of subject and its object. The conceptual bondage in space-time phenomenality arises only because each human object assumes itself to be an independent entity with volition through Maya or subjective hypnosis, whereas actually it is consciousness itself which becomes identified with each form in the process of duality. In other words, it is I which has become the thousands of me's. It is the same subjective I which has become the millions of objective me's. This conceptual independent entity exists subject to the bonds of space-time. This me cannot exist unless this body which I am identified with is present in space-time. And we are told space-time is not true. This conceptual independent entity exists subject to the bonds of space-time as something extraneous to its own existence, whereas the factual position is that all the conceptual entities, the billions of me's, are, as part of the total manifestation, only the phenomenal aspects of the noumenal I. So the thousands of me's are only the phenomenal expressions of the noumenal I, and are perceived and cognized by one another in consciousness only because of the conceptual framework of space-time. The spatio-temporal framework is not something independent of the various appearances, but only an instrument, a mechanism to enable the various me's to perceive and interact with one another. The spatio-temporal framework, space-time as an instrument, is not something independent of the various appearances, but only an instrument, a mechanism to enable the various me's to perceive and interact with one another. The space and the me's are one objective element. One second, please. The spatio-temporal framework is not something independent of the various appearances. The apperception of this fact is liberation from the conceptual bondage of subject-object relationship in temporality. And this is exactly what happens when the sense of personal doership has been wiped out. Then there is no subject-object relationship in temporality. So the total acceptance that no one is a doer, life happens, but I don't live my life. You don't live your life. Life happens. That understanding is liberation from the conceptual bondage of subject-object relationships in temporality. It is the ignorant person who is worried about what might happen or about what he should do in particular circumstances. The sage does not volitionally accept or reject anything. He is open and impartial to everything that has happened, everything that is happening, everything that might happen. He knows that everything happens according to cosmic law or divine will. He knows also that all is illusion. Everything is fun and games. The child of a barren woman, as the sage Jnaneshwar said, basically and inevitably invalid. Invalid. I'll read this again. This is the really important thing. It is the ignorant person who is worried about what might happen or about what he should do in particular circumstances. The sage does not volitionally accept or reject anything. He is open and impartial to everything that has happened, everything that is happening, and everything that might happen. He knows that everything happens according to cosmic law, which it is impossible to know, or divine will. He knows also that all is illusion, everything is fun and games. As the sage Jnaneshwar has said, the phenomenal manifestation is like the child of a barren woman, basically and inevitably invalid, just cannot exist. Whatever is happening is merely a reflection of and on what I am. Whatever is happening is merely a reflection of and on what I am. What I am has identified itself with what I am not. I has identified itself with me. And it is this identification with a sense of doership that has to fall off. The approach, therefore, is necessarily and essentially negative. Any positive approach seems apparently necessary only because our volition demands it. I want to know. Otherwise, the sage would say, just be. But the average person is not supposed to be able to just be. That is why I said among thousands, there is hardly one seeker. And among thousands of seekers, there is hardly one who knows me, that is the source in principle. So for this reason, it is necessary to use concepts. Any positive approach seems apparently necessary only because our volition demands it. But the fact is that any positive approach can only strengthen this sense of doership. That is why I said this investigation is any action which I thought my action. Is it really my action? So, this investigation of this type is a negative factor. That action which I thought was mine, it was not my action. So this, reaching the conclusion that no action which I thought was my action turns out to be my action, does not strengthen the ego. It can only weaken it. The difference is between I am meditating with a view to being enlightened. I am meditating with a view to being enlightened, and meditation happening without any meditator. The difference between the positive and the negative attitude is this. I am meditating with a view to being enlightened, and meditation happening without any meditator. There was a question?
Ramesh,
I understood that it is impossible for the object to know the subject. On the other hand, there was a saying that among thousands of seekers, there's hardly one to know me in principle. That suggests that there might be one. Isn't that a contradiction?
No. The one comes to know exactly this, that he cannot know the subject.
Thank you.
What does this one come to know? It is ridiculous for me to seek something which has created me. That is itself the understanding that no one is a doer. All doing is done by the source through the individual body-mind mechanisms. That is the understanding which frees the one from, what does it free the one from? From seeking. Because he comes to know seeking is impossible. Seeking to know the subject is impossible. And that's the end of the seeking. Now this total understanding, I'm sorry, yes, please. No, go ahead.
Is it your concept, Ramesh, that the movement of thought is what creates the illusion of space and time? Is your concept that the movement of thought is what creates the illusion of space and time?
Say that again, please.
Does the movement of thought create the illusion
yes,
of space and time?
No. What creates the illusion of space and time is Maya, or the subjective or divine hypnosis. It is divine hypnosis or Maya which makes one think the space-time is real and that which exists in space-time is also real. That is Maya or divine hypnosis. Now, this understanding, how does this understanding work in practice? This is all right. This is a concept. This is theory. But the theory is right, is proved by the fact that there are people who live according to this understanding. And the understanding being that he does not live, he is being lived. Life is being lived through that person. Let me tell you a story, not story, it happened, an incident which happened. My earlier guru had a small ashram in Pune. He had a lot of disciples spread all over. And his only purpose was, if some family wanted to spend some time with him, there should be a place where they could stay. They could eat outside, do what they like. But there should be some place, a few rooms where they could stay. That was the object. So the ashram was a small one, not a $500 million ashram. So once my wife and I visited this ashram, my earlier guru, over a weekend. I think it was actually a Sunday. And the ashram was in an area which was surrounded by slums. And literally hundreds of children. And that being a Sunday, the children were out there playing, and suddenly we heard a noise of someone being beaten up, others shouting. So my guru sent a couple of people from the ashram to find out what was going on. And what turned out is that someone who was on his way to the ashram, an old man who used to come occasionally, one with a total understanding, a sage, but living like perfectly like an ordinary man. And he was programmed not to care anything about his appearance. So he would be badly dressed, his cap would be askew. Just the object the children would love to make a joke of. So what must have happened is, they must have joked about him. And when they found that he didn't get angry, on the contrary, laughed with them, one of them at least must have felt angry. So one of them must have thrown a stone. Others started pelting him with stones. And he was hurt. So when these two people from the ashram went there and they found this man bleeding, they brought him in. And all the time there were complaints, grumbling. Something should be done about this, always. Someone must do something. Someone must do something. This goes on much too often. Somebody or other gets. So this old man said, when he heard all these complaints, this old man said, I was present, it's not hearsay. This old man who was bleeding, not too badly, but he was bleeding. He says, what is all this hubbub about? Some hands threw stones at me, and now some other hands are washing the injuries and putting some medicine in it. What's the big deal? I've seen him say that. What has happened? Some hands threw stones at me and hurt me. Some other hands have washed the injuries and put some medicine on it. You see? So this is understanding in action. Oh yes. Then there is what I am saying is merely incidents which have come to my notice. Another one is, there used to be a very great stage about living in a place called Ganeshpuri, about 60, 70 miles from Bombay. But it took train and bus and it took some time, took 2.5 hours to come. And says Swami Nityanand. He was the guru of the more famous Swami Muktanand. Nityanand still has a small ashram. And there, people used to bring fruits or some fruit, let us say fruits. So there used to be every day, especially over the weekend, quite a lot of fruit. So what Swami Nityanand used to do is to direct his assistant. He would say, send this to such and such a temple, send this to another temple, send this to such and such a family. And once, a small portion left unallotted. So the next day, the attendant grumbled. You gave no instructions about this, and now they have been spoiled. They have become overripe, they have been spoiled. And Swami Nityanand says, they have not been spoiled. They have gone exactly where they were supposed to go. That is, to the worms. Then this is a story told several times over. There were two monks, meaning they were strict celibates. On their way, they saw a woman struggling at the edge of the water. She was probably drowning or she was in difficulty. One of them promptly rushes to the woman, takes her out, and puts her on a dry land, and then goes back to his fellow disciple, and they both go away. As they were leaving, the other one says, you shouldn't have held that woman in your arms. You see? So he said, otherwise she would have drowned. A half an hour later, the same other man tells him, I still think you shouldn't have held that woman in your arms. So this man tells him, I left the woman there half an hour ago. Why are you still carrying her? Then there is the story of the Sufi, a poor Sufi living in just a small room, begging for his food, living a quiet life. One of the neighbors was a young lady who had a lover. They couldn't get married for whatever reason, so she got pregnant. And then the family, there was a big row. And they wanted the lady to tell who the father was. She didn't want her lover to be named. So she said, the Sufi is the father. So they went to the Sufi and said, now it is your work. So when the baby is born, we'll bring it to you and you will have to bring her up. The Sufi said, all right. So the baby came and the Sufi brought the baby up for about 6 months, 12 months, something like that. And then this couple realized that they wanted the baby. They could see the baby next door growing up. And they said, it's our baby. We want to have that baby. So they explained the situation to the parents and they got married. Then they went to the Sufi. We were very sorry. We blamed you. The baby is ours. Please give the baby back to us. So the Sufi said, okay, take it. Whatever has happened was accepted. And whatever happened later was also accepted. This is again an old story, often repeated because of the validity of it. A Brahmin went for a bath in the river. On the edge of the river, he saw a scorpion struggling. So he took this scorpion out and put him on the ground. But before he could be left on the ground, the scorpion bit him, bit his fingers. So there were others who were there. They laughed at him. What a silly ass. He should have known the scorpion would bite him. So they said, why did you do it? So the Brahmin explained, I did what was my nature, what I was programmed to do. And the scorpion did what he was programmed to do, to bite. Then there is another one, which is also, you must have heard before, or not, if you haven't heard, so much the better. It says, the door of heaven. There is a Persian story of a sage who came to the door of heaven and knocked. From within the voice of God asked, who is there? And the sage answered, it is I. In this house, replied the voice, there is no room for thee and me. So the sage went away and spent many years pondering over this answer in deep meditation. Returning the second time, the voice asked the same question, and the same sage gave the same answer. The door remained closed. After some years, he returned for the third time. The voice asked the same question, who is there? The sage cried, it is thyself. The door was open. So I and me are not two. But that has to be understood from personal experience, that me truly doesn't exist as a doer. And the last one, again, an old one, which has always been my favorite. And I usually try to make it the last words I utter here. A good, God-fearing man dreamt that he was walking across the sands of a desert with God. That walk was synonymous with the life story of the man. As both walked along, the two pairs of feet made two trails of footprints in the sand. But at times, the man could see only one pair of footsteps. He then asked God, "Dear God, why is it that at times there is only one trail in the sand? I see that the other trail is missing at the times when I went through great despair and agony. Why, when I needed you the most, were you not with me?" God looked with great compassion at the man, and he replied, "My dear child, it is true that there is only one trail of footprints in the sand during the most difficult times of your life. But during those times, it was I who carried you in my arms." Yes, that's it. Yeah. Any questions? Last chance. Okay, we'll go ahead. Yes, please.
I would like to know more about self-exploration. I'm trying to listen to my inner voice, but sometimes I don't hear anything. Do you have an exercise or something? What can I do that I...
Sometimes you hear the inner voice, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, then I know what I have to do, but sometimes I just don't know.
Yes, but your inner voice can trick you. My point is, you don't have to listen to the inner voice. Listen to your own voice.
This is my own voice.
There is no need to listen to the inner voice. What does your voice tell you? To do something, do it. If it happens, you can take it that it was God's act, not yours. No need for you ever to say to God, "I'm sorry." No need of apologizing to God, ever. Do whatever you like.
No, but that's the point. Sometimes I'm open, but I don't know what to do.
Well, then the only thing I suggest is flip a coin. Heads, I do it. Tails, I don't. Or no, otherwise, ask a friend. But ask a wise friend. Yes, please.
Ramesh?
Yes.
All the time I wanted to ask you about the love. About love?
Love, yes.
Yes. But right now I really can feel how the love is here. And there is no need to ask anymore. And I really thank you.
Thank you. What would you consider love? Since we have brought the point up, what is love according to you?
Well, I can only think about my experiences.
Yes.
And
no, let me put it this way. By love, do you mean the opposite of hate?
I probably think that's the thing why you don't mention love too much. Because of that.
You mean I don't mention love very often?
No, you don't.
You see, love for me means absence
of hate,
of separation.
Separation.
So, when I know that it is the same God who functions through this body-mind organism, as the one who functions through this body-mind organism, there is no separation. Where is the question of love between us? There is not even any separation for love to happen.
I think that's what I felt. And so I didn't need to ask.
I'm glad you got that answer before I had to give it.
Yeah.
Marguerite, are you going to sit here or there? I mean, I don't know. Yes.
Somebody wants to ask a question, maybe after the
Of course. Then you start the tape, Haina.
Sir Ramesh.
Yeah.
First of all,
I'm sorry?
First of all, let me just put one sentence. This week or these 5 days was for me. I live in another world, not in the spirit world, so I put it differently. It was for me more than a 5-star holiday. So I would like to thank you for that. And but I would like to. Something is in my mind. Just one thing. Let me go to one point back. Could you, in a very realistic way or in a very worldly way, once again explain this balance sheet of the cosmic world? Because I mean, for instance, how do I understand this balance sheet? If I would like to reach something, yeah, I bring in my performance, and my power, and whatever it is, or my spirit, or something like that, and therefore I reach that goal. Is that the balance sheet, or is if I reach a goal and I have to please this goal, but on the other hand I have to give something away, or something happens to me, or how do I understand this balance sheet? I don't catch it.
How do you understand this violent?
Your balance, not your balance sheet, your cosmic balance.
Balance. You see, whether you get what you tried for, or whether you don't get what you tried for, God has already decided as part of your destiny. You see, in the Bhagwat Gita, you have heard of the Bhagwat Gita? The Hindu Bhagwat Gita, which is, the basis of it is, the main character, Arjuna, is a warrior. That is a sort of a family fight. And Krishna, he was approached by both Arjuna and his cousin Duryodhana. Both approached him for help. At that time, he was resting. Duryodhana arrived first, and he sat by his side against it. He rested, he reclined by his side. Arjuna went later, but he sat at his feet. So when Krishna woke up, he saw Arjuna first. But Duryodhana said he had come first. So he said, I'll tell you what. On the one hand, I'll place all my soldiers, my entire army. On the other, myself, without fighting. Will be on the one, but I will not fight. On the other side is my entire army. Promptly, both chose what they wanted. Duryodhana said, your army. And Arjuna said, I want you on my side. So, in that battle, in that war, Lord Krishna became Arjuna's charioteer. He was not going to fight. The understanding is that he will not use any weapon against Arjuna's enemies. So he became his charioteer. And he took the chariot right in front of the battle. And that is where the Bhagavad Gita begins. Arjuna sees all his enemies, which are really his friends, cousins, and all. So he puts his bow down and tells, I can't fight. I can't kill my brothers and cousins and friends. You see? And he is totally despondent. That is how the Bhagavad Gita begins. And Arjuna and Krishna gives a whole lot of advice. But the main thing he tells Arjuna is that these people, these warriors you see, have already been killed by me, have already been killed by me as the source. You only have to be the instrument through which their deaths will happen. Then he tells him a whole lot of other... and then finally, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, now I have told you everything. Decide whatever you want. Then he further tells him, even if you decide not to fight, your programming will make you fight. Even if you decide not to fight, your programming, being born a warrior, being trained to be a warrior, when the arrows come at him, his nature will compel him to fight. I have already killed them. That's what Lord Krishna says. Which means, whatever you were supposed to get or not get has already been decided. All you can do is try to get whatever you want. Whether it happens or not is not in your control.
So that means also the cosmic balance sheet is already included or impacted in the program.
The only thing is, you are not prepared to see the balance sheet. A created object cannot know the will of the creator subject. But if you say, is everything predetermined? Yes. And even the physicist mathematician, you see, he says also the same thing. Yes. Is everything predetermined? Yes. On this, I'll tell you another story. You see, Ramana Maharshi said exactly the same. In a gathering, he said, he was asked, is everything predetermined? Ramana Maharshi said, yes. Then one man raised his arm and said, I've just raised my arm. Was that also predetermined? And Ramana Maharshi said, yes. There the matter ended. But if he had continued, I have always wondered, what would Ramana Maharshi have said? I would have told him, you think it is your act, the arm being raised. Why was the arm raised? Because that body-mind organism, which is you, heard some other body-mind organism say, everything is predetermined. So the hearing that everything is predetermined was the input in that programmed body-mind organism. The brain reacted to it and said, how do you mean predetermined? I am raising my arm. So his raising of the arm was merely a reaction of the brain to hearing that everything is predetermined. That is my explanation. I have always wondered what Ramana Maharshi because I don't think he had any concept like programming.
Thank you.
Okay.